P. Sweeney, Eileen P. Sweeney was a nationally recognized expert on issues affecting people with disabilities who receive federal welfare benefits. From the time she was in college through her work as a senior fellow at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities in Washington, she sought to improve the lives of children, battered women, senior citizens, the poor, and people with disabilities. Ms. Sweeney assembled coalitions and coordinated litigation to help people she thought needed it most. The Eileen P. Sweeney Distinguished Service Award is presented to individuals whose outstanding service has resulted in significant improvement in the quality of advocacy for Social Security claimants, increase in the availability of advocacy for Social Security claimants, or improvement in the Social Security adjudicatory process. Tom Sutton has been an extraordinary leader in the Social Security advocacy community for many years. He has served as NOSSCR's president and representative for the Third Circuit on the NOSSCR board. He has testified before Congress on Social Security issues at NOSSCR's request, and he has been one of the nation's foremost Social Security disability litigators for many years and has contributed to many precedent-setting cases. It is my pleasure to present the Eileen P. Sweeney Distinguished Service Award to Mr. Tom Sutton.
Thanks so much, George, for this award. I am humbled. I was actually floored to hear that I was nominated for the award and that the board approved it. I have a lot of people to thank, so I'm going to try to move quickly through this. First, a word about Eileen Sweeney, who I had the privilege to know as a young lawyer. She was instrumental in the work that I did with my senior colleagues, Rich Weishaupt and Jonathan Stein at Community Legal Services years ago in the Zebley litigation, which resulted in awards to hundreds of thousands of disabled kids who had been denied them for a very long time. Eileen was a fantastic lawyer, one of the key anti-poverty forces in this country for decades. We miss her greatly. I'd also like to say a word about one of my inspirations, who was my professor at Penn Law School, Ed Sparrow. When we talk about Goldberg v. Kelly and that raft of cases from the 1960s and 70s that established due process rights for our clients, Ed Sparrow was behind most of them. He was a true advocate for the poor and the dispossessed in this country. And he was the person who taught me something I did not really understand before I went to law school, which is that Social Security is the absolute bedrock of this society. It is the thing that stands between most people and abject poverty when disaster strikes, either because of old age or infirmity. We've had the program since the 1930s. We've only had the disability program since the year before I was born, 1954. It is absolutely critical, and Ed taught me that. And as it happened, this is the area that I've made my life's work. So I always think of him, gone way too soon. I want to thank my former colleagues at the Atlanta Legal Aid Society. That was my first job after Penn, who taught me how to be a lawyer, who taught me in many areas of the law how to practice. And then my former colleagues at Community Legal Services, whom I've already mentioned. A superb group, and legal services generally is absolutely critical in this country, and we all need to support legal services because we in the private bar cannot possibly handle all of the cases that we have to handle for our clients. The recent litigation around the appointments clause, I have to say I kind of fell into almost accidentally. One of my colleagues in the Philadelphia area called me about a week after Lucia was handed down and said, "Do you think this has application to our cases?" And I must admit I was skeptical at the beginning, but very quickly figured out that this was going to be a major issue. And indeed, it turned into one. One of the judges I practiced before in a case conference just before Carr was handed down asked me if I considered myself one of the authors of Serco. I said, well, Your Honor, I'm going to wait until the Supreme Court rules because, as they say, victory has 1,000 parents, but defeat is an orphan. The judge found that to be pretty funny. As it turns out, there was no defeat, thanks to the superb advocacy of Sarah Harris, who we'll hear from in a couple of days. The Supreme Court did rule in our favor, and we have still much work to do to implement the ruling in Carr v. Commissioner by the Supreme Court just a few weeks ago. But I've been privileged to be part of that as well. I've been privileged to have the clients that I've had over the years. I've really been inspired by them, by their resilience, by their ability to keep home and heart together in the worst of times through terrible illness and injury. It really has been inspirational. I've been inspired by my colleagues, my partners, Jess Leventhal and Sharon Gorenstein, whose work is indefatigable and from whom I've learned things every week without fail over many years now. I need to thank my family, my wife, Dr. Andrea Kasher, my daughters, Kira and Leah Sutton, who are working on their doctorates. They are all inspirational to me as well and have supported me throughout my career and my life's work. And the last thing I want to say is, and this seems odd today, but I think we have to say it, we're living in difficult times, obviously with the pandemic, but we're living in a time where we have people, and not a small number of them, who apparently think that elections are trifles, that their outcomes are to be questioned and even overturned at the drop of a hat based on baseless conspiracy theories. It's a really frightening time. I think that our future as a democratic republic is actually hanging in the balance. And I think it is incumbent on all of us as attorneys with the privileged position we hold in this society to speak out, to speak to our friends, to our colleagues, even to our clients, no matter what their party affiliation or their political views. The fundamental bedrock of American democracy is free and fair elections. If we don't have those, we have nothing in this country, and Social Security won't matter ultimately if that goes away. So I would just say to all of you, many, many thanks for this award, whether it's really deserved or not. I appreciate being in the company of people like Paul Eaglin, Kevin Liebman, and the rest who have received this award over the years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. And yes, it is well deserved. And my congratulations to you again. Paul Eaglin is a long-standing member of NOSSCR. He has served on the NOSSCR Board of Directors representing the Ninth Circuit and most recently the Second Circuit. Paul is never too busy to help NOSSCR members with questions or issues and has given freely of his time and knowledge. He will often research a question until he finds an answer to help a fellow attorney. Paul goes above and beyond to assist fellow attorneys, never asking for anything in return. He is an asset to the NOSSCR community. Paul has shown a commitment to the disabled and to his fellow disability attorneys. It is my honor to present the Eileen P. Sweeney Distinguished Service Award to Mr. Paul Eaglin.
Thank you for the recognition that this award signifies. The Eileen Sweeney Award is in memory of a singular leader whose life was devoted to claimants. Each of us can only hope to come close to the level of achievement and success that Eileen Sweeney attained. The networking that is available to us through NOSSCR is one major key to trying to honor her life through our service. This annual CLE, especially when it returns to in-person following the COVID era virtual sessions, is a critically important part of the networking that enables us to touch base with others as part of improving our own service, as well as improving our knowledge of this intricately detailed area of practice. The contacts at numerous CLE sessions are invaluable. Members of this practice area are also generous with their time and energy, which further enables one to try to achieve some measure of success in this practice area. Our clients benefit immensely from the contacts that we establish and maintain. Examples of this type of networking, apart from NOSSCR itself, abound in places such as Chuck Martin's national listserv that benefits hundreds of lawyer representatives. Other examples are in the various states or federal circuit regions where there are organized groups of practitioners who look to improve each other as they serve each other with time and expertise. There are state-level listservs and regional listservs that also help us to improve. All of these have benefited me enormously. I am grateful to NOSSCR for the networking opportunities at national conferences, the opportunities to prepare and to present CLEs at these conferences, to serve on committees to further the objectives of the organization, and to serve on the board of directors, first for the Ninth Circuit more than 10 years ago, and most recently for the Second Circuit. I'm also grateful to others who have provided opportunities to improve through service, most notably by helping Chuck Martin with the listserv that he owns, which connects us on a daily basis. These are all part of what enabled the level of service that I was able to provide. Without them, I would have struggled mightily to maintain an acceptable level of service. I am grateful for them. Thank you, NOSSCR, for the recognition that this award signifies and for the opportunities that you provided that enabled the service. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Congratulations again. Well deserved. Thank you for everything you've done for NOSSCR members and fellow attorneys. I will now turn things over to Mr. Pedro Cruz Sanchez.
Pedro, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Good morning again. Sorry about that. As George said before, Ms. Sweeney sought to improve the Social Security disability adjudication process for claimants through her outstanding service. The 2020 recipient of the award in her honor, the attorneys of Wilmer Hale, under the leadership of Arpit Garg, have made immeasurable contributions in this area. It has returned to government service. However, in his previous position as senior counsel at Wilmer Hale, Arpit was the leader of the teams of multiple attorneys providing extensive pro bono assistance with the con litigation and subsequent fraud redetermination litigation since November 2015. Side by side with Arpit in these endeavors was Emma Simpson, who received the award on behalf of the multiple attorneys at Wilmer Hale today. Wilmer Hale's team obtained a positive outcome in Hicks that benefited many claimants. Wilmer Hale continues their extensive pro bono assistance, not only in the con cases, but also in other similar fraud redetermination litigation in Florida and Puerto Rico, for which I am personally very grateful. They have not only given us the legal compass to successfully litigate redetermination cases in the states and territories, but also the support to continue these efforts to benefit many more claimants. But their involvement does not end there. The Wilmer Hale attorneys have continued to provide assistance and support in Social Security matters. Both Arpit and Emma are Yale Law School graduates, and they both clerked for U.S. Supreme Court justices. And the rest of their team shares the same outstanding qualifications and abilities. I was amazed with the positive attitude, dedication, and commitment of the members of the Wilmer Hale team. When I personally thanked them in our meeting in DC for their pro bono work, most of them replied that they were thrilled to work with matters that directly involve people. The humility and kindness of this team of distinguished attorneys is remarkable. It is an honor to present on behalf of NOSSCR the Distinguished Service Award to Mr. Arpit Garg and the attorneys of Wilmer Hale for their extensive pro bono work. On behalf of thousands of disabled persons and their attorneys and representatives, thank you, Arpit, thank you, Emma, and all the attorneys at Wilmer Hale for your commitment to pro bono service and your invaluable and fundamentally life-saving work. Thank you again.
Thank you, Pedro. It's very nice to see you again. I haven't seen you in so long, so it's great to see you by Zoom. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, NOSSCR. Thank you to the board for this tremendous honor, which I share, both personally on behalf of Wilmer Hale. To begin, I'm literally required to start by saying that since I have departed Wilmer Hale and I'm currently serving in the Biden administration, I have to say that my remarks are only in my personal capacity, not in my official capacity. Literally a requirement, had to say that. But I wanted to start by thanking people. So first I have to thank Wilmer Hale, which was my family for 5 years. It was my first home after doing my clerkships, where I learned to be a lawyer. And over the 5+ years that we spent litigating pro bono matters against the Social Security Administration, the firm dedicated enormous resources to this cause. I mean, thousands and thousands of lawyer hours. And I mean, I still remember that in 2020, I put together a presentation on our work for some of my colleagues, and we jokingly subcaptioned it Wilmer Hale Social Security Practice, because we had over a dozen matters at that point, all pro bono. And, big firms, they do pro bono work, but it is typically, you see, high profile cases, Supreme Court cases, front cover of the New York Times kind of cases. These cases are profoundly important to the Social Security disability community, but they are not front cover of the New York Times kinds of cases. And it speaks volumes to Wilmer Hale as a firm that they committed such incredible resources to this very important cause. Personally, I want to thank Daniel Volchuk, who is a partner supervisor on all of these cases and a mentor to me. I learned a tremendous amount from him. I want to thank Chris Hurling, who is our pro bono coordinator and helped bring these cases originally to Wilmer Hale's attention, and then was a tireless advocate and supporter of the firm continuing to work on these cases as we sort of learned more and wanted to stay very involved. And then as Emma is here, Emma is here sort of standing in for the legions of associates and folks who worked on these cases and without whom we could not have had the success that we had. And so I'm sort of deeply appreciative of all of their work and dedication, and owe them a great deal of thanks also. Hi, Emma. Second, I want to thank my co-counsel, in particular members of NOSSCR like John Goss and Heather Freeman and Pedro, but also some non-NOSSCR lawyers like Ned Pillersdorf and Evan Smith. I always have to confess that I felt a little bit like an interloper in this field. I came to the conference back in New Orleans, and I think I began my remarks by saying I'm not a disability lawyer. But as I reflected on this, I learned so much about disability law and the practice of it from my colleagues. I learned what I think was so key, which is that things that may seem on their surface to be not so problematic or just a routine change, these small changes can have profound implications for our clients' practice of disability law. And so my co-counsel were great teachers, and they were great friends throughout this entire process, this endeavor that we did together. I want to thank my family. I want to thank my wife, Nisha, who was incredibly supportive for all the time that I put into these cases. I will thank my children, who are 3 and 1. And so they didn't really provide so much as direct support, but moral support always in the form of hugs. So I think I've done what I hope to do, which was spend most of my time thanking people, which is really how I feel. But in reflecting on this honor, I did have one thought. What brought me to these cases is the work of Eric Kahn. And for those of you who know anything about Eric Kahn, I mean, it was his immoral and illegal conduct that was the central point of our cases. And what always strikes me is that he stands in stark contrast to what your field is and what it represents. You know, I did a lot of pro bono work in my time at Wilmer Hale, but you know, yours is a field, as it always seemed to me, that is fundamentally oriented towards the public service proposition of helping people get benefits to which they are entitled and on which their livelihood depends. And it is a profoundly noble profession. I say that I'm the child of doctors, which is sort of the famous noble profession everyone talks about. But I came away, when I went to the conference, this is a noble profession that you have embarked upon. And I am so deeply honored that you collectively have sought to sort of bestow this honor on me. But it is a special group. I mean, there's no greater testament to the fact that when this all happened around Memorial Day in 2015, you know, legions of volunteer lawyers came up. I mean, there was no back pay in those original con cases. And legions of lawyers came out to sort of help, just because they found this was fundamentally unfair. And you know, we mentioned Chuck Martin. I remember going to Chuck Martin, talking to Chuck Martin at the New Orleans conference, and he was saying that when he first put up his appellate listserv, people were like, "You're going to give away legal advice? What are you doing?" But that was, not only has it worked, it's been amazing, and it's a testament to this community. So you all are an honor to the field of practice of law. You do honor to it, and I am touched that you would bestow this honor on me. I have always wanted to do public service in my career. It's why I clerked for who I clerked for. It's why I'm in the government now. But I have yet another reason now to sort of commit this to my service, because I now have to live up to the name of Eileen P. Sweeney. And so I will sort of carry that with me for the rest of my career. So thank you very much. I really am tremendously honored.
So thank you all, and congratulations to all of our awardees, who are all so very well deserving. Tom and Paul, I've relied on their assistance throughout my career as well, and I really appreciate all you've done. And Arpit and Emma and Wilmer Hale did amazing work with all the con cases and other class action cases. I remember actually hearing from Chris Hurling soon after those letters started going out, right around this time of year, saying, you know, maybe there's some pro bono work we can do on this. What do you know about it? And boy, maybe you didn't quite know what you were getting into, but we really, really appreciate it. At this time, I am really thrilled to welcome Congressman Lloyd Doggett to our conference. Congressman Doggett represents the